guys. So today I thought what we would do is take a look at some, probably not all because there's too many. Maybe we'll do like 3 parts or 4 parts of this. Um, but just some of my DVD and Blu-ray collection, depending on how much there is and maybe how much the cats interact also because they're home and looking spry. So these are in really no order. I have quite a few DVDs and Blu-rays. Not nearly as many as I'm not purchasing them as much as I used to because, quite honestly, nowadays it's number one, things don't come out on DVD and Blu-ray as frequently, or at least it feels like that. Not as easy to find. And number two, I'm older with kids, so even getting to see these movies to know if I want to buy them is sometimes a hassle. So let's take a look and see. So first up we have, this is a 3-pack of the Simon Pegg and Nick Frost movies. We have The World's End, Hot Fuzz, and the one that most probably everybody knows, Shaun of the Dead. I happened to pick this up on a trip once. We have a cabin on a lake, and for the longest time, it either had a black and white TV with no signal, or eventually we got a DVD player, and we didn't have a huge amount of DVDs there, if any. So what we would do is, if we needed to or wanted to, we would head over to Dollar General and go through their cheap DVD selection. And one year I picked this up because my dad hadn't seen any of these, and we were there for a week. So, I had seen Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. I hadn't yet seen World's End, but picked this up and we watched. I think we watched all 3. But he thoroughly enjoyed that. That was his brand of comedy also. So, good pickup. I think that was just like $5 and you got all 3 movies. If you haven't watched any of these, I highly recommend all of them, honestly. Next we have The Iron Giant. I have not seen this film. I will cop to that. I have heard nothing but great things, and apparently if I do watch it, it will make me cry. But I have not. I have not seen this film. Oh, but now the cats are making noise. It's funny here because it says signature edition 90 minutes, theatrical version 87 minutes. So apparently there's 3 minutes worth of extra needed things in here. But yeah, I haven't seen this. At some point, I'm sure. I have kids, so I'm sure at some point we'll pick that up. Let's see. Let's do these next couple in order. We have the 2-disc deluxe edition of Batman Begins. This has you can see the changing image there with the bats flying up and Batman disappearing. I'm sure at some point I'll get the Blu-ray version of this, but at the moment this works, obviously. If you haven't seen Batman Begins or the Christopher Nolan trilogy in general, I don't know what you're doing or what rock you're hiding under. But this is a good night at the movies. This one came with, I think, it comes with like a comic book version of the, like part of the movie. Not the whole thing, obviously, but, like a sneak peek at a graphic novel if you wanted that. And then we also have the special edition of The Dark Knight. Again, something I should probably get on Blu-ray eventually. If you haven't seen The Dark Knight, then you're missing basically, one of the best Batman movies Affleck's look was great, but I didn't find much to do with his take on the character. It was just that the fight scenes were cool, but Christian Bale did a great job. Also, of course, Heath Ledger in his final performance. And then to round that out, we have the Dark Knight Rises. I rather liked this. I know some people, it wasn't their jam. It's hard to follow up the Dark Knight, quite honestly, but I mean, they did a great job. Penny, why are you making loud noises, Penny? Sorry, the cat is deciding to step on some crinkly papers and perhaps try to eat them. These cats are not the brightest. Anyways, I loved this movie also. The only thing I didn't like, at the end when, whose character is it? Joseph Gordon-Levitt, when his character goes to get, like he's picking up his belongings at like, some sort of lost and found. I forget exactly what the situation is, but, they look him up and there isn't anything, and then he's like, oh, it might be under my birth name. And I was hoping he was gonna say Dick Grayson, but rather ridiculously, they had his birth name as Robin, which, I'm sure the dumb audiences would have, maybe some of them wouldn't have gotten that Dick Grayson is Robin, and that's, because at the end of the film, Christian Bale's character kind of leaves the Batcave and things to Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character to continue this vigilante fight for justice. But man, talk about missed opportunities. When he said Robin, I was like, oh, come on. His birth name should have been Grayson. And that would have made sense. I mean, Dick Grayson's his parents die, he's been adopted. It made sense. But I guess they felt they needed to dumb it down for certain audience members. Like, hey, he's Robin. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We couldn't name him Dick Grayson. Some people won't get it. Next, we have the original X-Men film. If you are younger and have been growing up with all these Marvel movies, you are unaware as to how lucky you are. This was one of the first big budget comic book movies that was really like, boom, like, oh my god, we're getting what we actually wanted from these movies. I remember seeing this in the theater with one of my friends, and we were just, blown away, because this is the first time we'd really gotten a true to life, dramatic and taking itself seriously rendition of some of these characters. Sure, we'd had Blade and a couple things here and there, but this, I want to say, really started the boom. I can't remember if this was pre-Spider-Man, right? I want to say yes. Of course, then we also have X2, X-Men United, another really good X-Men film. Some people don't like these outfits, but they went ahead with Morrison's take on them in the comics, or May Morrison was after. I forget exactly. It was around the same time. But X2, great movie. Really just continues the level of dramatic storytelling that the first one did. Introduces Nightcrawler, though I didn't really like his look. His power set, they did a really good job of showing, but I don't know, the look of the character with the weird little like he had a little face like tattoo like markings. I wasn't a fan of that part, but and then finally, because we honestly couldn't keep up the good go, we have X-Men 3: The Last Stand. Kind of the classic. Whoops, we didn't know what we movie had until it was gone type of movie. This is a collector's edition that comes with like comic and some poster stuff. It's hard to get into, honestly. Not a great film, but at this point they were, I forget, it was a different director, wasn't it? Than Singer. I want to say Singer had moved on to. Here's the cover. Greatest X-Men movie yet, says some idiot. I want to say Bryan Singer had moved on at this point. Yeah, I see a producer list on here. Brett Ratner, that's right. Bryan Singer had moved on to Superman Returns at this point and didn't come back for this final install, and you could tell. You could tell. Next up, we have the original Ninja Turtles movie from the 80s or early 90s. Was it early 90s? It's been so long. I remember seeing this in the theater. It is rated PG, but if you don't know, it is really not. It's pretty dark and, serious for a kids movie. Turtles 2 was more of a kids movie. 1990. There we go. New Line Cinema. I was 8 at the time, and Ninja Turtles was the biggest thing since sliced bread. So of course we went to see this. I have Ninja Turtles movie or Ninja Turtles books from the 90s, like little paperbacks. I had all the figures. I was a huge Ninja Turtles guy. We even went to the museum in Massachusetts. Peter Laird, I believe. Maybe it was Eastman and Laird. I forget if both of them were involved with the museum, but they had a comic book museum, and I remember going, and a lot of the artwork was from indie titles that we had no idea what the hell it was. So me and my brother, who were young at the time, were not horribly impressed, but they had a little Turtles area, and they had a gift shop, so, next we have 300. Great movie. I haven't honestly watched any of the, they had that second one where it was, them on the water. I've seen bits and pieces of that on TV, but I've never sat and watched that. I saw this in the theater. This was when Zack Snyder filmmaking was like groundbreaking for that 20 minutes before it was overdone. But 300 it's just a great romp if you've never seen it. I know a lot of these movies, I figure if you're my age or younger, you probably have seen these, but if you've never seen 300, sit down and take a watch. Apologies if you can hear my cats upstairs. I don't know what the hell they're doing. Next we have J.J. Abrams' Star Trek reboot. I really liked this one. We got Kirk on one side and Spock on the other, and that's about it. But, no, it's just them under there. Yep, just them under there. I really liked the first one and the second one. I didn't watch they made 3 or 4, right? I watched the first and the second, that was it. And then this is a big chunk of boy. This is the Star Trek original movie picture, or original motion picture collection. And it has 1 through 6. So the original crew. I used to watch these growing up all the time. They'd be on TV. So we have the motion picture Wrath of Khan, Search for Spock, Voyage Home, Final Frontier, and Undiscovered Country. And then they have an interview disc called the Captain Summit. I always loved number 4, the like San Francisco, and they're trying to find a signal, and it turns out to be whales singing. But whales have been extinct on, Earth for thousands of years in the Star Trek universe. I watched that one the most, I think. Probably not the best one, but that's the one that I used to watch as a kid all the time. Let's see, we have The Crow. This is the Collector series. If you haven't seen the original Crow, then I don't know what to tell you. You don't really need to watch City of Angels. You don't really need to watch any of the other ones. The first one is the best one, and the one that's worth actually sitting down and watching. I've probably seen this like 10 or 15 times. It's like such a millennial slash Generation Y, like, tentpole movie, It's very, like, all these kids were wearing goth and listening to Nine Inch Nails, and this was their movie, Let's see, we have a couple, I haven't watched these in years. That's Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr. I forgot Rachel McAdams was in that. Good movie if you've never seen it. They are directed by Madonna's husband, whose name I have, Guy Ritchie. There we go. I had forgotten his name. Very fast-paced. The dialogue really goes. I like Robert Downey Jr.'s Sherlock because he gets into more physical altercations, and I do remember his English accent being a little hard to understand at times, but good movie nonetheless. And Mark Strong as the baddie. He would later go on to play Sinestro in the short-lived Green Lantern movie. And then, of course, to follow up, we have the second and final, the Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows, which I also liked. I thought it was a good follow-up to the first movie. Again by Guy Ritchie. Two good, a couple good movies if you're just looking for entertaining, action, comedy kind of thing. Let's see. Kind of randomly in here we have the Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. Again, if you're younger and you didn't have to live through the late 90s, early 2000s comic book movies, consider yourself lucky. This was the Fantastic Four with Chris Evans and Jessica Alba and I forgot the name of the guy who plays Reed. He was kind of famous for a minute and then dropped off the face of the earth. Let's see, does it have the name on the back here? Ian Giffard, or Griffod. And then Michael Chiklis from The Shield as Ben Grimm. These movies were not great. My daughter watched them because she was big into Fantastic Four for a little while, and they're okay, but they're not. Nowadays audiences would pretty much crap all over this. It was just exciting for us because back in, what year was this? This is PG. Back in 2007, we didn't have many Marvel or comic book movies, so to see the Fantastic Four on the big screen was, kind of novel for us, but, not the best films, that's for sure. Next we have The Rocketeer. I always wanted to like The Rocketeer more than I did, I will be honest. I am not a big fan of, like, bumbly heroes, and The Rocketeer was very much a bumbly hero. He's crashing early on, he doesn't know what he's doing, doesn't want to get into a fight. I jackets with it's got the the buttons down either side. Oh my god! Like I would buy this right now if I saw it at the store. This jacket is just beautiful, and the helmet's so iconic. Um, not the character of the Rocketeer. I mean, he's got his comic book background. But yeah, the film is 50-50 for me. It's just kind of a nostalgia thing. But just the visual of, when he's got that helmet on, just a beautiful image. Let's see, we've got LA Confidential. I have never watched this movie. I'm bad. It's a who's who of big names at the time: Kevin Spacey, Russell Crowe, Guy Pearce, Kim Basinger. And it's one of those early let's see here. It's one of those early Oscar-winning movies that had, a whole bunch of people that would go on to do big things. I just haven't sat down and watched the whole thing. I know I'm bad. But, I've got it for when I need it, right? That's the thing with people that don't have physical media. Sometimes stuff isn't available. So at least I have it available. This is Russell Crowe pre-Gladiator, Kevin Spacey before he was famous, but not as famous as he would get. Guy Pearce, Kim Basinger's always famous. Next up, and if you've never seen this, this is an amazing film. If you ever want to give somebody a mind fuck, let us say, have them watch The Prestige. This is a film by Christopher Nolan, starring Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale, along with Scarlett Johansson and David Bowie and Michael Caine. So a lot of people from the Batman universe. It's about two magicians in the turn of the century. Just to give you a timestamp, David Bowie plays Nikola Tesla in this film, and there he is. There, honestly looks a good amount like Tesla. But it's about these rival magicians, and they're kind of one-upping each other, and it is amazing, in every sense of the word. Just an amazing film. If you ever have the time and you have not seen The Prestige, honestly, this is probably one of my favorite movies in my collection. Just an amazing film if you haven't seen it. The Prestige, I won't go into too much about it just because there are many twists and turns and surprises. Let's see, we have the Hunger Games. We just have the first two. Reason being, I've read all the main books. I haven't read the first three. I haven't read any of those ones they made after the fact. But we watched the first one, and then we never actually watched the second one, even though I find the second book to be the more entertaining book of the first three. Just never got around to it, quite honestly. And then my daughter, she recently, I think last year or the year before, had read The Hunger Games for school. But even then, we didn't get around to watching the second one. So there's those two. I'm gonna pause and get a couple more, and also see what the hell these cats are doing. Okay, the cats are being nuts, so we'll see what we get here. Next we have the Monster Squad. This is the 20th anniversary edition. If you're a child of the 80s, you've probably seen the Monster Squad. This was Universal trying to get their money's worth out of, Wolfman, Dracula, and Frankenstein licensing. 80s, but with those monsters. If you're an 80s kid like me, you probably love The Thing. If you've never seen it or you're not an 80s kid, you might have no idea what this is. But it's a good romp. Just a fun movie. Let's see, we have Clerks 2. I remember seeing this in the theater. It was funny how much they got away with, quite honestly, in Clerks 2. What with some of the language and what they discuss, pretty, if you're easily offended, don't watch Clerks 2. But I loved it. For a while there, Kevin Smith's movies were kind of, he has, he kind of dips and wanes, but Clerks 2 is well worth a watch. Speaking of Kevin Smith dipping and waning, this is Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, which honestly I only have because it's, it goes with that period of Kevin Smith films that I own. I don't particularly love this film. I think we saw it in the theater and it was like, man, that was not, having Jay and Silent Bob as the main characters are they just really aren't enough to be making a movie about, in my opinion. So, not the best, but it has all the characters from all the other movies kind of pop in, so kind of have to have it. Let's see, we have Dogma, which I hear is for some reason hard to get your hands on. I saw something recently about how it's just now going to be on Blu-ray. I guess for a while it was hard to get, and basically Kevin Smith's take on religious fervor. Pretty good film. I haven't seen it in ages. If you're a big, if you really, what's a good word for it? Because I've lost my word. If you're a very religious person, I would not watch Dogma. But if you can take your religion a little not seriously, this is a fun film. God, these cats are going insane. They're either awake and insane, or they're just totally, comatose. We have the first Kevin Smith film I ever saw when I was in college was Chasing Amy. One of our friends had seen it, and we got our hands on it, and then it was like, oh, this is good. Let's see what else they have. If you've never seen it, I'd probably say this is the most interesting and heartfelt of the Kevin Smith movies, honestly. Ben Affleck, Joey Lauren Adams, and Jason Lee. I remember when Jason Lee was like a big commodity, and he had that Ed TV show. Haven't really seen him since then. This is Ben Affleck before it was like really big, famous Ben Affleck. We have one of my faves, which is Mallrats. I don't think many people have seen this one. It's got Stan Lee. Jason Lee is the main character on this one. Of course, Jay and Silent Bob over here. Just an exciting, a trip through the mall. Nowadays, kids don't understand going to the mall, so this would probably be a little over their heads. But in the 80s and 90s, kids, we used to spend time at the mall, just do window shop, really. Nobody was honestly buying anything. But kids would just hang out at the mall and be nuisances, almost. So, and then of course the one that started all, the original Clerks. I find Clerks funny, but it's very much a movie of its time. black and white, and it's just the adventures of two guys working at their mundane job. So, interesting film if you've never seen the Kevin Smith View Askew universe. Let's see, then we have Unforgiven. I've never sat through the entire Unforgiven either, which I know is this is why I have it, so I can. Clint Eastwood, honestly, basically his biggest film. This is when he had his comeback. Best Picture in 1992. That tells you how old this is. But I like the Western genre, if it's done correctly. This is when, really they came back into just being made. And Clint Eastwood as director also on this one. I think this was one of the first ones that he directed that really got high praise. Of course, any child of the 80s has The Labyrinth with David Bowie and Jennifer Connelly. This is the anniversary edition. What struck me, I watched The Labyrinth so many times as a child, and I always thought it was a really long, I always thought it was a really long journey through The Labyrinth, and really intricate. And you watch it now, and she's like in and out of that labyrinth in like 30 minutes. It's it's honestly kind of shocking how quickly everything takes place. It's not even 2 hours in length, but just a really classic Jim Henson film of the 80s. And David Bowie with his cod piece. They go for that in the special features. They're like, yeah, he was meant to have a giant cod piece because it's supposed to be like, Jennifer Connelly's character. She's supposed to be at that age where you're becoming a woman, and she's noticing things like that. And even though like the age difference is ridiculous, he's supposed to be trying to seduce her, as it were. So. Let's see, this is another childhood favorite of mine. The old Sinbad Ray Harryhausen films. This is the Golden Voyage of Sinbad, which, while not my favorite of the Harryhausen films, it was one of those ones that you saw at Best Buy and you could pick up easily. I just love what's that one called? The one with the gods. And he fights Medusa. My brain is not working. That's my favorite Ray Harryhausen. But for another flavor, Golden Voyage of Sinbad isn't bad. We have Jurassic Park. I saw this in the theater as a kid, probably like 12, maybe 13. I remember just being blown away. I mean, holy crap, when the dinosaurs would vocalize and you weren't expecting it, you would halfway jump out of your seat. It was pretty tense for a child of that age, but it was a big tentpole movie. I remember my dad taking us. I remember there's one scene where they're past the point where the T-Rex attacks their Jeep, and they're kind of in among the more lush areas of the park, and I remember Brontosaurus kind of, all of a sudden he's up in the frame, and he vocalizes, and I remember me and my brother just jumping out of our seats because we weren't expecting this giant dinosaur head to come in, and he's not going to eat anybody, but just the sight of it was like, whoa. Let's see, we have National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, a classic holiday film. I I'm sure it's on TNT or TBS as we speak. You know, best Christmas movie of all time. And, you know, when he's honestly due for a younger boy, that scene where he's dreaming of the pool and the beautiful sales clerk lady comes out of the pool in a bikini. Oh my God! You know, best time of your life for a 13-year-old boy. Just a classic. Let's see, this one's. Well, sorry, that was open a little bit. Usual Suspects by Bryan Singer. Honestly, one of the best crime movies ever. If you've never seen it, I highly suggest it. This is really what put Bryan Singer on the map as a filmmaker. And, you know, again, one of those earlier Kevin Spacey films where, you know, maybe he wasn't as famous as he would become later on. And, you know, regardless of what you might think of Kevin Spacey now, he's a stupendous actor. I know he had a little bit of the issues in recent years. Let's see, we have Juno with Ellen Page and Michael Cera. Great little film, very much of its time. And this is really what put Ellen Page on the map, maybe to an extent. Michael Cera also. I think it was the earliest I had seen him. Good little film. Ellen Page is no longer Ellen, which is a little weird to see her in these roles, I guess, where she's not super female in this film, but she isn't, you know, she is the female lead. So, you know, she's a tomboy character, but she's not a boy. Let's see, next we have Darjeeling Limited, a Wes Anderson film. Saw this in a very indie, you know, film theater. Wes Anderson doesn't really get big budget film releases, but a very good film. You have Owen Wilson, Adrien Brody, and Jason Schwartzman are playing brothers, and they are taking a trip through India to for their father's funeral. Kind of, I think they're going along with the body to the place the funeral is going to be held, if I remember correctly. Interesting film. See, another Wes Anderson film. I haven't seen, honestly, a lot of his more recent things, but I have his classics. This is The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. I remember I picked this up on Honeymoon at a Blockbuster that was going out of business. So we picked up a few DVDs because we had what was a interesting gift and a kind of a newer tech gift. We had a portable DVD player gifted to us at the wedding, and we took that along and got a few movies. So this was one of them. And then honestly, the kind of the be-all and end-all Wes Anderson film, The Royal Tenenbaums. This honestly is one of my favorite films of all time. It's just so quirky and emotional, and has great performances and actors in it. I mean, it's basically a who's who of actors of that time period. Just about this very quirky family. If you haven't seen that one, I'd highly recommend it. I think, if I remember right, yeah, the inner thing has illustrations, kind of like the Steve Zissou did. 2001, so it is quite a, almost a quarter century old. Jesus, that's when you know you're old. And then this was really the first Wes Anderson film that I remember being a hit or like getting his name out there. This is Rushmore with Jason Schwartzman and Bill Murray. He's really the one that got people to watch it. This is about this like teenager and Bill Murray's character are fighting over the affections of this high school teacher, and it's a little ridiculous. But because Bill Murray's a little too old for it, Jason Schwartzman's supposed to be playing like a 10th grader. Obviously, he's not a 10th grader, but they're trying to one up each other in this fight for her affections. This is a personal favorite from the 80s. This is Dragnet. This happens to be a collector's edition Blu-ray that I got not too long ago. Because this is old freaking movie, man. This is Tom Hanks before he was famous, or really, super famous, and Dan Aykroyd. Let's see, what year was this? 1987, yeah. I haven't taken it out of its shrink wrap yet. But this is hilarious. It's a movie based on the Dragnet TV show, but Dan Aykroyd is Joe Friday, and he's the straight man, and Tom Hanks is kind of a ridiculous, like, over-the-top character who is teamed up with him, and they get into a ridiculous case. It's hilarity ensues. So, if you've never seen Dragnet, I would suggest it if you can find it. We have The Disaster Artist, based on the hilarious indie film The Room, with Dave Franco, James Franco, and Seth Rogen. This is basically the making and the history of that indie film that kind of came to prominence with the bad acting associated with it. And this is a hilarious film. You don't need to have seen The Room to make, for it to be funny. Maybe watch a review of The Room first, just to see some of the clips that they parody in it. But The Room is like just yes, as it says here, the greatest bad movie of all time. And this is all about the star of it and the making of it. Just really hilarious. And let's see, we have the regular show, The Movie. Regular show was one of my guilty pleasures back in the day. We got a bug on there. We have to take him off. Hi, Mr. Bug. Just a hilarious film. It like basically transports someone to the future, and then they're like fighting giant mechs. It's pretty hilarious. But I always loved that show, so easy pickup there for me. Let's see, this is the Vacation 3 movie collection. The original National Lampoon's Vacation, highly recommend. European Vacation, which I always found hilarious, and Vegas Vacation, which I honestly have never watched. These were like a staple of 80s kids' movies watching. The first National Lampoon's is hilarious. European Vacation I always loved because of, as a young boy, there was just a bit of nudity in there, so it was exciting. When, what's the kid's name? Crap. Sheesh. God, I forget their names. It's been so long. But the boy, like, meets up with this girl in like, the Swiss Alps, and she's in one of those Swiss barmaid outfits, and she pulls her top down. Best cinema for a 13-year-old. Let's see, we have Immortals. This is honestly one of the first movies I remember having Henry Cavill in it. I've never sat through the whole thing, but it's very much in the style of Zack Snyder, so it's very visually, bombastic. Um, but yeah, I've never sat through the whole thing. Um, it's supposed to be myth inspired and of that age, but and I mean visually it looks really stunning. It's just I haven't had the time to sit down and watch that whole thing. Let's see, we have the Super Mario Brothers movie. I bought this mostly for my son when we were on a cruise. This was one of the movies that was on the cruise TV, and he watched this darn thing almost every day on that cruise because they didn't really have much in the way of children's programming, and he was young enough to where he didn't have much to do. So, he watched this a bazillion times, and he thoroughly enjoyed it every time. Good little movie. I still don't think Chris Pratt was the best voice for Mario, but he did a good job. And the Peaches song with Bowser is, of course, a hilarious highlight. And then I think finally for today, this is one of my favorite documentaries. This is Grizzly Man by Werner Herzog, which follows Timothy Treadwell, who was a kind of I don't know if you want to call him he was an environmentalist to an extent, an indie environmentalist. He would go up to Alaska and live with grizzly bears in the wild. Just him and the bears and a camera, and he would film himself and he would talk about them. And eventually he was attacked and killed by one of them because he would just be out there with literally just in the summer living with the bears with no protection. They would just drop him off in the middle of nowhere and he'd camp there. Not the best idea, but this is a documentary about his life and what happened to him. Very good film. So I think that'll be it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed Physical Media Forever.